back to my hut. Today I thought I'd talk to you briefly about Colours of Rain, my middle grade fantasy book. You'd think it'd be really easy to talk about a story that you've written, but I do have some notes, so I will be looking down occasionally. I absolutely loved being read to as a child, and I enjoyed stories with magic in them, a bit of adventure. The Folk of the Faraway Tree was a favourite. I loved the idea of going up a tree and climbing on a cloud and finding a different land each night. And I often would make up my own lands and places in my head. And I really wanted to write a beautiful story with like a fairy tale quality to it that adults would enjoy reading aloud to a child, and also that a child would enjoy listening to and then later on reading themselves. And I saw a prompt on, I think it was Pinterest, and it just said, imagine a world where you only see colours when it rains, and it just grabbed my attention. I just thought, wow. And every time I went walking in the rain after that, I would try and imagine the excitement, the thrill, the magic of seeing colours when it rained, and how people would love rain, how people would rush outside. Well, not everybody. In the story, April's mum isn't quite so keen. She finds colours a bit too bright, which is interesting. So that's what I plan to do. I plan to write a beautiful story. And I just held the idea in my mind. And then one night, just as I was about to drift off to sleep, you know that moment, it's such a comfortable moment when you know any minute you're just going to drift off. Well, this little girl popped up in my mind just at that moment. And I have this little trick so I don't forget things in the morning. I don't wake myself up and write it down. I just imagine the same thing over and over again, just for a little while, and it seems to work for me. So this little girl popped up in my mind, and her name was May, but I put the chapters of this book on a site. I can't remember what it was called, but you have to review other people's chapters and to earn stars. When you got enough stars, people can review yours. Anyway, someone on there suggested that I called it April because of April showers, and I just thought it was such a lovely idea. So she changed from May to April. And I was surprised when I started writing the book that it became underlying. There was a story about grief because April's grandma had died. I didn't want to write about grief, but I think maybe imagining every colour to be grey. Look around the room, just see how many different colours there are. Now just imagine it all in black and white, in grey, and maybe because grey and dark colours we associate with grief. Maybe that's why my subconscious decided that her grandma was going to be dead. But I really liked her grandma. Her grandma was the right character. Someone I would have loved to have met. She spun these wonderful tales and stories and believed in fairies, and a very exciting, lovely, lovely person. Perhaps a little bit obsessive about trying to get colours back. But I knew that, she just had to be dead, so that was that. But actually the story, it does involve April's grief process. But the main story on top of that, perhaps the story that children would pick up on, is the adventure, the determination that she has, and the help that she gets with her friends. I'm not sure she would have managed any of this without her friends, and friendship's quite an important part of this. And anyway, they go on an adventure, and I'm not going to spoil it for you and tell you what happens. So that's it really, and I'll read you a little bit from the book. So I think that's a nice idea. And to do that, I'm going to have to put my glasses on because sadly I'm getting a bit old, and my eyes don't work as well as they used to. I think, where am I going to go from? Oh, this is a nice one. This is Follow the Butterflies. It's actually chapter 11. That was some picnic, April. My brothers are going to be jealous as pigs when I tell them about it, Mitch said as he flicked raindrops from the long grass and grinned. The best birthday food ever, Katie said. She bent to sniff some tall pink flowers. This meadow is beautiful. Why haven't we been here before? We have, but it was covered in scratchy stubble and hay bales, April replied. Don't you remember making a den? Was that here? Are you sure? It looks so different. The forest looks darker. Katie shivered. Looks like the same place if you turn around, Mitch said, pointing back towards the tent. Katie turned and pouted, screwing up her nose. If you say so. Do you want to hear a story about the magic of smelling colours? April asked. It's about this meadow. Katie and Mitch nodded, and as they continued through the long wet grass, April recited the story Mum had told her the night before. As she finished speaking, thousands of tiny butterflies rose into the air like a colourful mist. April lifted her hands high and held her breath when one of the delicate creatures brushed gently against her cheek. Katie's eyes widened and she whispered, "Oh, it's like the stories." Her body trembled as delicate wings tickled her skin. Mitch grabbed her hand and gave it a little squeeze. Maybe they migrate at this time of the year. Katie smiled at him in surprise. You've been listening in class. She stepped forward but kept his hand tight in hers. They followed April, who skipped along a path only she could see. Katie stopped and gripped Mitch's hand tighter. It's not the same time of the year. My mum said all their birthdays were in a different month. Mitch frowned at her and cocked his head to one side like a robin, listening for worms. Then I guess these little butterflies live here all year round and they fly to the forest when disturbed. He pulled his hand free and pointed. April was standing at the edge of the trees and all the butterflies were swirling between the leaves and branches. She waved her arms at Katie and Mitch. Hurry up, slow coaches, she said. We have to follow the butterflies and I don't think they'll wait. So there we are. There's a little bit of Colours of Rain. Thank you for popping in, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.